Hi everyone, it's Peter Schiff again. It's Thursday, October 29th, 2009. I'm talking to you today from a conference room here at a local television station up in Hartford. I'm taping a couple of shows that will be on over the weekend, Face the State and another local show. Anyway, it was an eventful day in the market. Today we reversed the action from yesterday. The Dow was up about 200 points. Of course, gold was up $20 an ounce. Oil is back above $80 a barrel, and the dollar got hammered. The catalyst for this was the supposed good news, and it's interesting that, of course, the dollar goes down on good news. But the good news was that the third quarter GDP increased at an annualized rate of 3.5%, and that caused a lot of people to proclaim that the recession is now over. Well, first of all, I think that this is very premature. If you go back to the period of the Great Depression, the decade of the 1930s, of those 10 years of the 1930s, 6 of the years, GNP grew, right? Only 4 of the years was there a contraction. And in fact, there were 4 consecutive years between 1934 and 1937 where you had consecutive years of economic growth where the economy grew an average of 8.5% a year. Now, does anybody think the Great Depression ended in 1934 because we had positive growth? And that was a whole year. Of course, even after 4 years of 8.5% growth, the unemployment rate was still 15%, and it went back up to 19% a year later. So I think it's very premature to say that this is over because we've got a quarter of growth. Even if we end up with a year of growth, it's not going to be over. And of course, it's not real growth. That is the real problem. Take a look at the GDP numbers. The two biggest components were residential construction and durable goods spending, mainly for automobiles. Now, first let's look at residential construction. Why are we building more homes? There's a glut of homes. We got so many empty homes, we don't know what to do with them. The reason that we're building new homes is because the government is subsidizing home building. They're doing it with artificially low interest rates and subsidized mortgages. They're doing it with tax credits, both for the home builders and for individuals who are buying homes. So as a result of all this artificial stimulus, we're building more homes than we really need. This is not how we should be utilizing our scarce resources. If the government was out of the way, right, and interest rates were higher and there were no subsidies, home prices would still be falling and we wouldn't be putting up any new homes. We would be utilizing our resources more productively and more efficiently. Instead, we continue to build homes that people really can't afford. The same problem is in the automobile market. People are buying cars because of cash for clunkers. They don't need these cars. If we had no cash for clumpers, maybe people would have done something more economical, more viable with that money. Maybe they'd have saved it. Maybe they'd have paid off some debt. But instead, they went out and bought a car that they couldn't afford because the government gave them the money. And while we're looking at the fact that our GDP expanded at an annualized rate of 3.5%, look how much our debt grew in the third quarter. It's off the charts. And so we're actually going into debt. And look at what happened to our trade deficit. It actually expanded in the quarter. It had been contracting, right? That was a good thing. Now we got the trade deficit going back up again. Look what happened to the personal savings rate. It plunged during that quarter. So what did the government succeed in doing with all of its stimulus? It got us to go out and buy more stuff that we can't afford with money that we don't have. Why on earth would we celebrate that? Only on Wall Street or in Washington, D.C. is this a good thing. And until we get a handle on the fact that the stimulus is the problem, we're not going to get a real recovery. What are we doing? We bought 4 years or so of phony economic growth under the Bush Greenspan stimulus. Right? The growth was phony, and we paid dearly for it. We're doing the same thing. The supposed growth is consumers spending borrowed money. Government spending also increased. This is not legitimate economic growth. We are dissipating wealth. We are going deeper into debt. If we really want to get our way out of this crisis, if we're going to ever have a real economic recovery, we need to do the opposite of that, right? We're not going to borrow and spend our way out of debt. We're going to save and produce our way out of debt. But unfortunately, all of these stimulus plans are getting in the way. And, when you have the government claiming credit for this economic growth, you have people on Wall Street who are saying, you see, the stimulus is working. That's the problem. The stimulus is working. It's stimulating all the wrong things. The stimulus is designed to get us to spend money, and that's what we're doing. But the cure is that we don't spend money, that we save money, and we're doing the opposite. And it's really, my blood boils listening to these commentators on television talking about how the government stimulus is working and how the economy is growing when all we're doing is compounding our problems. Also, I was watching on CNBC today, there was a discussion of the Federal Reserve and its independence with Steve Leisman, who's an economist over there. And Steve Leisman said that the reason the Federal Reserve is independent is so that it can conduct, it can be the lender of last resort without government interference. Now, where did he learn that? The reason that the Federal Reserve is supposed to be independent is so that the Federal Reserve doesn't use monetary policy to artificially stimulate the economy to help incumbent politicians get reelected. Well, obviously, it ain't working out. There is no more independence of the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve is acting as an arm of the government, and it is acting to create economic conditions to reelect politicians. That's the exact opposite reason for its creation, and it flies in the face with the whole idea of independence. For Steve Leisman to say that they need to be able to prop up the economy without the government interfering, no. We don't want them propping up the economy. And of course, the government is trying to get them to do that. So once again, that view is the complete opposite of reality. Anyway, that's it for today. I hope everybody has a good day. I'll try to say something again tomorrow if something warrants it. And anyway, remember, we got that money bomb coming up for Schiff for Senate on November 5th. SchiffSuperbomb.com. Make sure to remember that date, and let's see how much money we can raise for the Senate campaign. Thanks again, everybody.